All right, what do we got here? So we have some people in the chat. It's good to see. How's everyone doing? We're here to talk about the season 1 finale of Pluribus. It's one of those weird weeks where they showed it early, so it feels like it really feels like, Cris, you were just here 1 week ago. It really feels like that was a month ago, the last time we did that.
I
It
know,
feels
yeah,
like
and
so
we
much has happened.
through the week, yeah.
So, but yeah, it's been exactly 1 week. This is our regular time. We're here. We're live. I have a great roundtable, and we're gonna go through the finale. We're gonna talk about the first season in general, what we think, how things are gonna set up for season 2. I'm going to let my co-hosts here, my guests, to introduce themselves, give me their thoughts on the finale now that we've all had a bit of time to process, and anything else they want to bring up as we go around, and then we'll get into some of the big moments in the episode, the season, and how we think that's going to lead us into season 2. So Courtney, you can go first.
What's up, guys? My name is Courtney. I am from Courtney's Reviews. So I actually really liked the finale. I know we had some mixed opinions about it, but I thought it was pretty strong. And as I was watching it, the one thing that kept kind of playing in my head was misery loves company, but not as much as it loves the right to exist, right? And I think, like, if I had to sum up this episode, that's how I would probably sum it up, right? So the hive offers relief from suffering, but at the cost of individuality, and that's really driven home in this one. And Carol's realization is that her pain itself deserves space, right? The right to be miserable. And the moment where that really crystallizes for her in the ski resort, I think was the most profound part of the episode. Maybe also the goat scene, which I'm sure we'll talk about both in more detail. I appreciated how this one was a nice book ending effect to what were shown in the first couple of episodes, how we see Carol kind of flip a little bit, but then, self-corrects. And I thought it did everything a finale should do. I enjoyed it. 2 thumbs up.
Yeah, you mentioned, and I guess I'll just throw it out there as we go around, because I don't know that I asked each of you directly if you thought this was a good episode, but I was in the camp of a little disappointed when I watched it initially. Not that I didn't think it was a good episode. I think it is. I think that especially as she sort of comes to terms with what she's been doing and what she has to do whenever they're on their romantic getaway, I thought that was probably the best emotional beats that the show has put together so far. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I just, for me, I was hoping for a little bit more out of a finale. So as an episode, I thought it was great. I thought I liked it just as much as I liked all the other episodes when I watched them, but I was feeling a little let down as far as, what I wanted for the finale to kind of leave me with. A.ron, why don't you introduce yourself?
Hi. Yeah, hi everybody. My name's A.ron, and I'm from this outfit called Bald Move. You can find all of our stuff at baldmove.com. Currently, we're covering Pluribus and Fallout, and we're starting to pit in the new year and the Night of the Seven Kingdoms, all the stuff you'd expect with my co-host Jim and our producer Talitha. It's a lot of fun. You should check us out. I thought this was a great finale. I oohed and awed and I gasped a few times. I think this is a great send-off to a really great first season. I think Vince, there's gonna be a lot of discussion about the bomb. I think that's a classic Vince Gilligan punting something into the new year, and he could do anything with it. It could be a fake, it could be an EMP, it could be a standoff, dead woman switch thing. Who knows? But I was also really impressed that they as much as they built up the Menusa stuff, that they kind of dealt with their friction, and I thought it was just a really good the way they showed how chilling the Hive is. Like, I've been kind of a Hive curious guy in a lot of our chats here, and like, I've never been that way. It seems like they're happy and all that, but I thought that the turning of the young woman in Paraguay just instantly was ice water and all that. Like, this is not, this and also that the Pluribus will keep up every appearance and do everything but lie to you in order to manipulate you and distract you and to get you to go along with their hive mind. And no bueno. So that's, I thought that was pretty exciting, and it leaves a lot of really meaty stuff to get into in the second season.
Yeah, that's something I do want to circle back to, is the way that scene in Peru played out. So we will come back to that. Don't worry. Hi, Cris. How are you?
I am good. Happy to be back after last week. For those that don't know me, I am from the Popcorn for Dinner podcast. We have now finished our coverage of Pluribus, but you can go back and watch all our episodes. Me and Ebebe covered that together. My co-host, he's been on a few times. And they are now covering Fallout on the pod, which Pete is on as well. So you can catch their coverage of Fallout now. I'm not personally covering it, but great group of people. So my thoughts on the finale is I did quite like it a lot. I do think because we had so many theories that we discussed in our episode 8 live stream, I do get some of what you're saying, Pete, of like, I think we were just way ahead of the story. So if you're like, thinking about things of like removing Zosha from the hive and things like that, like, I think that's just way down the line. But yeah, I think my initial reaction was positive, and I've now watched this like 3-4 times, and the more I watch it, the more I really like it. I do like character-driven dramas, and I like that the climax really just came down to like Zosha and Carol, and it had to do with these central questions of the show of what is love and what is happiness. And I like that a show like this is bold enough to kind of make their big climax something so like insular and character focused like that. And I like the opening in Peru because, as you said, I think that for those who were a little bit more pro hive, it opened a lot of people's eyes. I think sometimes you need to see the death of culture in that way, and it was pretty chilling. And I think it's very notable that happens in the same episode that Carol is the closest to the hive that she's ever been. It really adds to that tension of wanting Carol to return back to her mission. And I really think with this finale as the end point, we can kind of see this whole season as an origin story for Carol of where she now needs to be to actually try and save the world. I think she had to work through grief and then go through experiences where she can understand the other side's perspective, but still come to this place where she realizes it's a bit of a fantasy to get wrapped up in what the hive offers. So I think she kind of had to go through all of that to get into the place she needs to be for a very exciting season 2.
Yeah, I was just looking. You are wearing Carol's sweater right now, aren't you? Someone was mentioning it in
I am.
in the comment. Yeah.
I can drop the link. I had it up earlier.
Yeah, I can share it. That was the first thing I said to her. I was like, oh my gosh. So I have the link right here. I'll drop it in the chat for you guys if you're interested.
This is confirmed. Yeah, Amazon Essentials. So Carol is not spending all her money on clothes. It's going towards that house, I guess. Her beautiful house.
She does have a nice pad, that's for sure.
Oh,
the
pop, absolutely.
That they built for her, and that was the whole thing with that satellite images leaking and come back was pretty huge. Like I saw that after I had already seen that episode, but it was definitely the pictures of that were definitely out there before that aired. So
yeah, exactly.
So yeah, there was a lot that you guys had touched on there that I found important. The things I want to talk about as far as this, I'm trying to think of what I want to go into first, because I think one of the things that I've wanted to talk to you guys all about, because I saw it so much in the comments of my finale video, was this idea of the hive. Like, people are saying, well, why doesn't she just tell the hive simply to not to give her eggs, or to not create this cure, or whatever they would call it, like, why don't, like, that? I guess the misconception I see a lot is that the hive always does whatever the unjoined wants. And I think that if you, I kind of understand where that comes from, but I think that if you're looking at it that way, or if you're watching the show with this idea that they actually do lie, and that this is this isn't something that's fundamental to the way that the narrative was put together, is that they can't lie. There's these things that are there that if you're looking at them in those ways, like, a lot of stuff doesn't really click into place exactly. I think, or at least I see a lot of dissonance around why she can't stop this. So does anybody besides me, because I just put out a video earlier where I kind of went through it, but does anyone beside me want to volunteer their interpretation of how this works? Like, basically what we've talked about on previous live streams is this hierarchy of, like, because it's with humans, we know how that works, right? Like, we have these things that we need, these imperatives.
Mm-hmm.
Like, we have to eat food, we have to drink water, we need to find shelter whenever we're out in the elements or whatever. And those things change based on whatever we need the most at that any given moment, right? Like, if we're starving, but there's also a tornado coming in our direction, like, we have to seek shelter first before we can worry about food, right? So that's the way that I kind of process, because we know what we know, but there are some gray areas in there whenever you start to think about it. So would anybody like to add their 2 cents on that?
Yeah, sure. So this was something we were speaking a little bit about, but and I think I floated this. I'm not sure which live stream it was. I think it was 1.4, 1.5.
Yeah, it was the first time you came on, I think.
Yeah, where I was talking about how I was kind of reading the hive through Asimov's law of robotics. Except, of course, they're not robots, so it's a little bit different. But I came up with like kind of 3 rules that I think govern the hive. So the first rule being their biological imperative. So what is the biological imperative of a virus? It is to perpetuate itself, to spread, right? So it will do whatever it needs to do to protect that ability and that right. That's its number 1 priority, right? Biological imperative. Number 2 is to protect the hive insofar that they are able to fulfill that mission, right? So they can't pick an apple, but they can, pack up their shit and leave Albuquerque when Carol threatens them or Manusos threatens them, right? So they will protect their ability to perpetuate the virus. That's number 2. And then finally, number 3 is to obey humans, right? So they will obey humans in only if they're not, that ability to protect the virus, to perpetuate the virus is not threatened. At least that's the way I see it. So could she just say, hey, give me my eggs back? She could ask, but I don't think that they would honor that request, because the biological imperative to spread, to infect, is that strong.
Yeah, and my point of view on it is that they were pretty I agree. I like the way that you organize that. That makes a lot of sense to me, and I think that's useful. Like, it's practical. And I think that if you go back and look, I think the show was pretty. They made a point to hit these certain different situations, because I mean, if you talk about Asimov, that's sort of what Asimov did with those laws. You know what I mean? He created them so that he could break them. So he could look at the different ways where they break down and found out all these different interesting situations. So I think the show kind of was ahead of that. And, you know, like they said, well, they said, well, you know, they can't lie. They don't want to harm, but they will lie. They won't lie. You know what I mean? Even if it will harm Carol in that situation where she asked about Helen and the way she felt about her books. Right. So they don't want to harm her, but at the same time, they just can't lie. So that when pushed, they do it. But then there's also this other line where when she asked how to undo the joining, then they just won't answer at all. They can't lie, but they won't even, you know, they won't even entertain it. So I think that the show, if you go back and you look at the way that the early episodes, the middle episodes were organized, I think they were kind of like almost checking off things on the checklist so that you could better follow how that worked. I saw this comment here that is, it says the hive's main priority is building the antenna to spread the virus. And I think, yeah, that's valid. That doesn't violate the way that Courtney laid it out. You know what I mean? That's just a further, that's just a way that they further that objective to spread is by building the antenna. So
can I add another layer to this analysis when we're talking about their drives and whatnot? Because I want to, because
does anybody know what this sound is? Does anybody else hear that?
Yeah, I hear it.
I've been hearing it. Yeah,
I'm not sure who it's coming from.
Should we play host roulette and drop one at a time and see?
Yeah, like I'll go on mute.
I'll mute.
I believe it's Courtney. I think it stopped when you muted, but it's not going now.
I heard it when.
Here it comes.
All right, Courtney, mute, and we'll not mute and see what happens.
Yeah, it's her. I don't know what it means. Anybody know how to fix it?
I think if it's because it's only noticeable.
Maybe turn it down a bit.
Talking, or maybe if she. Anyway. Okay, let's get all this stuff done. What's wrong with my microphone? Can my fellow hosts help me out here? Do you guys hear, like, people are saying my mic sounds terrible, and I'm sitting in front of a huge soundboard. I can fix this.
You sound fine to me. I think it's just the Courtney feedback. Sorry.
It's probably I just have my mic too close and it might be picking up from my earbuds. Is that better?
That does sound like a
Sorry.
All right.
Yeah, someone said that I tuned into 8.613. Yeah, I did. Sorry.
Yeah, I like that idea.
I gave myself a little bit more gain. The idea that there are like we have drives, you know, got to eat, got to drink, got to breathe. We have some conscious control over some of those. Sometimes we have conscious control until we lose consciousness, like breathing. You can decide not to breathe, but if you pass out, your body will start breathing for you. And then there's some things that we have complete control over. Like we have massive control over a reproductive drive. We have massive control over our food need for food, because people have actually starved themselves to death for principled purposes, not out of not having food around them, right? So I would love to know if this reproductive urge, this biological imperative, if they mean that in the truest sense of it's like a reflex, the way that, like, if we went unconscious, we would continue to breathe the way our heart beats without us saying something. Or do they have any conscious control over it? Because if they do, the thing that's I think is interesting is this the first time that they've received the signal has been received by a planet and it's left some uninfected people a lot around? Because it might be a novel situation, and if it's not a instinct, like automatic thing, it's something that maybe Carol and people like Manusos could just talk them out of, you know, like help them understand that, you know, but you are violating my autonomy, which you say you can't do, you know, just because you're is like, really, like, tell me how that works, that you have to infect me, you know? So anyway, I just want to throw that's the other level of the the analysis of their urges.
I do think it's a instinct based on the conversation Zosha and Carol have in episode 3 with Grenade, where she likens spreading the virus to throwing someone a life preserver. You wouldn't hesitate, you would just do it. And that has maintained true the whole time. That's why the finale didn't surprise me, right? She said point blank, that's what we have to do. We would never really stop doing this. And even in episode 8, she straight up told Carol that we'd like you to stop, ideally. So none of that's really a surprise. I do have a theory, and just I guess skip ahead. Zosha's fun fact in that last scene was about oxytocin leading to the development of empathy in vertebrate species. So I have a theory maybe down the line that maybe empathy is something that they develop, and maybe a big thing in this series down the line is them overriding their biological imperative in some way, if that's possible. Or the show just very clearly is like, that will never ever happen. And I think at this point in time, it seems like that's just not possible, or at least where Carol and Zosha are right now. But I do think that would be interesting if they can evolve in some way. Because, I don't think I think those things do mean something when they throw in little tidbits like that.
Oh yeah, I agree 100%.
That's interesting. First, but does this sound better? I turned down my volume a little bit. Is this
I
better?
think you could drop it even a little bit more if you wanted
Okay.
to. You're a little bit higher than the other two.
Sorry.
That's okay.
But Cris, what I wanted to say about, let me just adjust this. Is that better?
Yes.
Okay. About your empathy theory, do you think that the Hive currently isn't capable of empathy, or what are you talking about?
Well, it's hard to say, because I think, I don't know. I don't know whether maybe they have sympathy but less empathy. I'm not sure, but I just think it would be interesting if they could override their biological imperative at some point, because I do think it's notable that Carol's a writer, and so being a writer might be her superpower. I do think the scene with Zosha in the previous episode where she's getting really excited about writing Waikaro, in my opinion, is a moment of genuine connection. Like, I do think they're excited to have something new to read. They basically have no surprise or wonder or excitement or discovery in life. And so I think that was exciting for them. Of course, they have to love everything the same. They love Waikaro as much as Shakespeare, but I think just the newness of it was exciting. So again, I think we had a lot of theories that maybe that could override any of their biological imperatives in this episode. But just because it didn't happen now, I don't think that doesn't mean it couldn't happen like way down the line. I think things have to change eventually on this show if we're going to have like 3-4 more seasons.
No, because
I wouldn't. Yeah.
It's a really interesting question, because that was something that I was really curious about early on in the series. Like, are they capable of empathy? Because I know one of the questions that I kept seeing people ask is like, why are they so like oblivious to Carol's emotional state? Like, why don't they seem to understand that she's grieving? Like, why do they keep like the way they were approaching her was like just so offensive to her, right? And like, you would think that they might have a better sense of how to approach someone in that state. And it occurred to me that like, it's almost like they didn't understand her emotional state. And so I was thinking of it also in terms of empathy. They do seem to be caring, but it's like a different kind of caring, I guess. And ultimately it's about, I don't know. And like what you were just saying about in the previous episode, how excited Zosha was, I'm not entirely convinced that was like sincere. I don't know, part of the charm offensive, perhaps. Jury's still out.
I also think it's oh shoot. I'm so first of all, do I sound, before I launch on a monologue, do I sound better now?
You sound good right now.
Okay.
That's the best you've sound. I don't know what you changed, but
Jeez, I did not when I signed up to talk about the finale of Pluribus 3 months ago, I didn't really realize what the implication of coming in on, what is this, day 29 of Christmas, 27. I'm just confused. I'm full of cheeseball. Yeah, the fact that something about them patronizing her. I'm sorry, I'm completely flustered now. What were
They were talking about the way that they engaged with her new artwork.
Oh, yes. That there's been at least one, maybe two science fiction stories I can think of where a hive mind has been defeated by them just essentially appealing to, well, let's say that you roll through the whole universe and you assimilate everything. Then what? Because like one of these races that did this, it's like they were locked in like the static light, like they'd spend 1 billion years on a planet and then something would land on it and they would just like, oh my god, we finally have something, and they would but they couldn't understand that if they kept on doing that, then it's essentially they die of stagnation, and
Everything
wonder,
novel there would be no new novel things,
because
to
again,
excite
like
them.
yeah, they like Shakespeare as much as Waikaro, but Waikaro is the only game in town now. And I am wondering if Carol could get, if all of Pluribus gets reduced to the level of the most fanboy or girl Waikaro stan, if she could use that fiction to get like a resistance going amongst the Pluribus, which I don't know what that looked like, or a civil war, or a mass unjoining, and the fact that Zoja seems so excited, like these people have only been without entertainment for like 6 weeks, right? She was so excited. Oh my god, you're writing again. I don't think that that enthusiasm was faked. I think that was the hive, like, oh, this is actually great for us. So I wonder if you could do something similar. Like, well, if you take over the whole world, nothing new is going to happen. You're going to send a signal, and everyone's going to die, and you won't ever get a response. Like, but
yeah, and they're going to die in this situation, like a good percentage of them, because of the caloric deficit. And I think that it's open to interpretation on how they received the new work, but I think it was kind of set up in the way that they were surprised to learn a new detail about Carol whenever they're looking at the train. So there is some fascination with the new in the novel. Maybe they're also doing the charm offensive, like you said. They're telling her what she wants to hear in a non-malicious way, just because that's what they do. And that kind of transitions us into let's talk about the beginning of the episode. Let's talk about I got a question here I'll pull up really quick. Sort of the stuff that we learned in this Kusamayu conversion. And Michael Sanger, 83275 $5, thank you. They _do_lie. If an animal is attached to a human, we keep feeding it. I call BS. They left the little goat alone, even though it loved the girl. Well, I'll let everyone.
Yeah. Was that a goat problem? Like the goat had to be a little more insistent, because I think a dog could follow you for a very long time before it gives up, versus I think the goat, he gave up too early,
Yeah. But then you get into the philosophical part of it of like, well, it's a baby. Come on, man. Like, so, I mean, the deal here, the reason it really, really pulls on your heartstrings is because it needs protecting. And
I hate to tell you what we're going to find out about how the Pluribus treat actual babies, because I don't think it's going to be good.
Yeah, that's a question I often see posed out there in the world, out there in the comment sections. Yeah. Where are all the babies? But I mean, I think the goat scene was effective, but I don't think I think it's supposed to have us thinking about this, like, like what exactly happened there. Is Kusamayu gone forever? Because that was the thing that was brought up between her and Carol. Carol told her the things that make you will disappear if you do this. And her answer was, no, they'll still be there. I'll just be sharing them. So those are two fundamentally different ways to see what happened here, right? And I don't think that they put that there for like, that's not just something that it's not a throwaway line. That was set up for this, right? So
right.
What are the two different ideas here is that one, she lost all of it. Culture is lost, family is lost. The love for this adorable little goat is just not important. Let it starve if that's the way that nature intended for it to go. Because I mean, if they weren't taking care of the goat in the first place, like that, this might, things might have turned out differently already for it. So let's, not really think about that. But the idea of like, okay, that you have that's the sort of the human perspective. And then we have another perspective of like, she's joined, she has every culture that exists out there, all in there together. They're all in harmony for the first time since, they existed, and everyone is just experiencing bliss and enjoying everything the same. And so they engage with the world in a different way. It's not that they lost something. It's more of what they had has been replaced with something else, and it's different. So of course they act different, and they're in constant communication. At least that's at least a possibility, right? So it's not like people say, well, this proves that if Carol was joined, then Zosha wouldn't care about her anymore. I mean, that's really complicated to try to think about it, but like, we don't know that the individuals inside the hive, like how they exist, if they exist. But they're all in constant contact. So there's no, like, you wouldn't see them hanging out. Like, they don't have to hang out physically to be a part of each other. Right.
Yeah.
So I was sort of going on a rant there, but everyone can jump in here now.
Yeah, I would like to know, like, if A.ron was part of the hive and he went to sleep, would it be like for the duration of his unconsciousness that the host is like offline, or because that's a little bit, I guess, better. I guess that sounds better to me than if I'm like just some swimming piece of data in the world's imagination.
I think it would be, though, because that's what happens to the dead. I mean, that's what happened to Helen. So her consciousness, like, once it's uploaded, it's
yeah, you're right.
It's there. I wonder, though, when you're sleeping.
But Helen's not like. Have they ever had Helen respond into present tense? Like,
no, they never even offered that.
It's not like that.
As her, but Zosha has tapped into her memories, specifically in Grenade when she references the ice hotel.
But that's what I'm saying. But I don't think that like this is like a post-life experience that she's having, which says that if they go to sleep, they probably kind of wink out of the hive mind as well.
Yeah, I don't. You yourself are conscious in there, in my opinion. For me, it feels like there was one new consciousness, one new personality. They all have the same personality, and then you have a billion bodies and a billion memories, and it's almost like a giant octopus. And it is a little weird because in their bodies, they are obviously having individual experiences. Like Zosha talks about the massage, like she is feeling the massage. No one else is. They're aware it's happening, but none of these people default to who they were before. It's not like
no, that's the key part.
I would be me and I just have access to all of these things. Like Zosha's probably like a totally different personality. We have no idea, but this is a new sort of consciousness that has taken over her body, basically. So
yeah, I don't this really is Zosha on the hive.
Are thinking in there. Yeah.
I agree completely, Cris. And Pete, going back to what you were saying when you were quoting Kusumayu from episode 2, where she says she'll have it, she'll keep it, and she'll share it. She shares it insofar that like you have access to Wikipedia and all the world's knowledge and culture, but it doesn't mean anything to the individual anymore. And I think that's what that cold open really underscores, right? It's the loss of culture, the loss of individuality, the loss of subjectivity.
And it hasn't been lost. It's been like preserved in amber. It's never going to change. It's never going to evolve.
Yeah. But also like the value of it is what it means to the individual and to that community, right? So the whole performative aspect of how like they're singing and there's like it's very ceremonial and ritualistic. The way that's set up, like when she's first walking out and you see the plane flying over and they lay down the blanket, and then as soon as she starts seizing, they stop singing, and that sent a chill through my body.
Same.
And in the beginning, the way she's hugging the kid, the baby goat, and petting it while she herself is anxious, And you can see that there's an attachment to that goat. She loves that goat. That's what she is cuddling for comfort. And then right after, that's the first thing she goes and open. It's just heartbreaking. It really is. Really puts it,
Yeah.
for me. That was like, no, the hive is bad news. Just,
Yeah, and I would just add to that, you know, culture is meant to be practiced, right? You're meant to speak the language, you're meant to practice the customs, and once people stop doing that, it's just history, right? You know, and that's probably the last time that that language was spoken aloud, right? They all communicate in their heads now. We don't even know what language they're communicating in, if they are, but that's sad, right? That's sad that that's never going to be spoken aloud again. And as they bring each member into the hive, there's going to be no more languages ever spoken aloud. And I
but
mean,
they
you
all
know,
have
there's
access
studies.
to it. They could all
Yeah.
can speak Quechua. Like everyone on that's part of the hive can speak the language. But to your point, yeah, it doesn't have like the room to evolve and to grow and to change as languages do, as cultures do over time. So
Yeah. And they
You
yeah.
say
guys are
too,
so
language
human.
affects, no, language affects how you think too, right?
Mhm.
There's a lot of studies about like language and in your psychology. So again, that's like another point of the loss of individuality. If you're not
Yeah.
speaking languages, that affects how you think. And so again, they're all just one, and it's hard to say how they even think about language really when it's all
That's what I was about to
inherent
say.
communication. Yeah.
Like, I don't
Yeah.
even know if the laws of language apply when you're just,
Yeah.
you know, freebasing someone's brain thoughts or whatever.
Yeah, it all goes back to the idea that if you love everything, then what does that even mean anymore? Like we choose, well, we don't always choose, but we decide what we love, and we you know, we do crazy things for that feeling, and that part definitely doesn't exist inside the hive anymore. And so yeah, I think those are all good points. I think that is the things that we're supposed to be feeling. I mean, I know Vince said that it was, you know, it was literally her experiencing the world in a different way. And it was, you know, the idea of, you know, this, like, what does it mean to love whenever you love everything the same? If you love the person as much as a blade of grass, like that really, is a big shift in how we experience that, you know, love, and the way that we prioritize things as far as how they matter to us in our lives, and like what we want to preserve and what we want to spread ourselves. So yeah, and Silver Scale, thank you for the 5. Carol is the goat. The goat shows the impersonal nature of the hive's love. Did you guys think this is a one-to-one comparison? Do you think that's what that's there for on some level? Is to show how, because another thing that people tend to go back to is that the whole thing with Carol was manipulation. It's not, there's nothing real there. It's only a way to manipulate her to get whatever they want, which is to assimilate her.
I think there can be different interpretations here. In my opinion, I do think they are feeling their version of love. Like, I do think they're genuine when they say we love everyone and everything, and it just brings it back to that question of our definition of love, and does love have to be special and unique? Like, do you have to love someone for their unique qualities? And I think for how we experience love in our world currently, we would all say yes. You don't, someone's love doesn't feel like it means as much if it's not specifically because they like certain attributes of yours. And but I think they still have those feelings of love on their side. It just doesn't really mean the same thing anymore.
Maybe it's just like a complete biochemical flood, right? So like maybe they're just constantly flooded with oxytocin, and that to them is what love is. And so they value the life of an ant the same as they value a human life. Or in Zoja's case, she doesn't see any difference between Carol and Manuso. She loves them the same. So
yeah, one of the things I thought about whenever I was going through these questions and things was that, like, if you think, because Courtney, you and I were talking about this a little bit before, if you think about like things to compare being in the hive to, like, you know, like if you think about, like, if you ask a heroin addict if, you know, if they had enough to if they had enough resources to be in that feeling all the time, that would be a state of well-being for them, right? Like, because that's what their biological imperative has become. So like, you have that, you have the idea of a cult member, someone who's brainwashed, that really believes in the thing that they believe in that thing, and they want to spread it. And so they might do things that would otherwise ends justify the means, kind of things, right? So
well, there's also, I think, if you don't want to go nefarious, there's like this paternalistic thing, which I think maybe we talked about a couple weeks ago, or maybe it's just on a podcast, but it's like the same, like, if you got a child, you love that child, but you're still going to authorize a risky surgery for them, or a surgery that's surely going to be painful, it's going to have a long recovery time if it was going to meaningfully improve their life or save it, right?
mm-hmm.
So, like, Carol could be looking at this the same way, or I guess the Hive could be looking at Carol the same way you might look at a 6-year-old who doesn't want to go get their tonsils out. Well, but you've had strep throat 6 times this winter, Timmy. Like, the teachers are getting concerned. We got to, like, no, I don't. It's like they are so sure that their way is the better, and they have 7 billion case studies for it. If they're being honest. So it's like, if that's correct, if that's true, then I guess I have a hard time without just appealing to purely human forms, is saying that that's like immoral. Like, it's like, if every person has undergone a thing, post has been like, oh my God, this is so much better, I so much like doing this before what I was doing before, then I don't know. I don't know how can you tell them they're wrong?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think Carolina said something like that in an interview, like likening it to a mother helping her sick child, and was like, "You're gonna feel better if you do this." So I think you're on the money with that in terms of at least like what she was thinking as an actor doing that scene. But yeah.
And I think that's where this was the finale was most effective, especially, I mean, emotionally, was the way that you were there with Carol when she realized that whenever she says, if you love me, you wouldn't do this, that was her teenage self telling her parents that not to send her to conversion camp, right? Like, it was
that too.
It's that one-to-one of like, well, her parents thought that they loved her and they were doing that because they loved her. Like, that's where I start to think of the Hive as like that it really is harmful, like beyond just the, assimilating everybody and all the other stuff. But like, they think that what they're doing is good, but they can't see it any other way. So how would you be able to make them see that it's wrong? Because I mean, I think that we're heading to a situation where people are going to become unhived. They're going to be unjoined, and they're not going to like it, right? They're going to be like, I want to go back in there. So like, if you talk to someone, if you could reach the individual Zosha who is feeling this feeling that they have while they're connected, they're not going to want to leave. You wouldn't think, right? And I wanted to thank Dancing Sean 3836 here for the $50. That is very generous. Also, that handstand that you got going on in your thing there is pretty impressive as well. But they're going through the priorities again, and the point is that they're always consistent, even to their own detriment, which I don't think we said directly during this episode. We brought that up before, but that's another thing to keep in mind, right? Like, they follow them no matter what, like lemmings off the cliff. You know what I mean? Like, that we sort of touched on it with the idea of the caloric deficit. Like, they're going to build this antenna because that's what they have to do. And if 90% of the population dies in the process, so be it, because you can't pick an apple, right?
Yeah, bodies don't matter to them. They have other bodies that can do whatever they want.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know if it's as black and white as that, but that is the sentiment. You nailed it. You hit the nail on the head there. And I think maybe this goes back to what Courtney was saying about hierarchies, like they don't want that to happen, just like they don't want to eat people, but they will, because it's just the way that it's just the way that they're wired. But yeah, thank you for that. And now I kind of forget where we were at. Let's go back to this idea of, are they maliciously manipulative, right? That's one of the things that just sort of came up in that. I don't think that they are. I don't think that they're actively malicious, but I think A.ron put this in the notes. Are they maliciously manipulative? And the distinguishing between intent and impact. This is going back to the conversion camp thing, right? So can an act of kindness be a manipulation? Because like with love, this is one of the things I saw in several of the interviews postseason. Most of the things that we do for love are also manipulations, you know what I mean? Even if it's just because we want to feel good about ourselves, or we want someone else to feel good in the moment, because that's just a thing that has a benefit to it. So yeah, like can an act of kindness be a manipulation? Does it have to be does it have to be this whole idea of manipulation, I think, is underselling the idea of what they're doing.
Well, I think the idea of it, whether it's malicious or not, that's how we read it as individuals. That's us, projecting our own take onto what's happening here. I don't think the hive is acting out of a place of malintent, right? They are, as we've been discussing, they are following this biological imperative. They are doing what they think is best. That can still be harmful, though. It can still cause detriment and harm, and it's harmful to themselves. They can't pick a fucking apple. They are going to starve to death. That's pretty stupid, right? So it's harmful to themselves, and it has erased individuality and all these other things that as individuals we value. So I mean, there's the philosophical debate of is the hive itself evil or bad or whatever, and that's a total other discussion. But as far as whether they're acting out of a sense of maliciousness, I don't think so. But I do think it's manipulative. I think they are manipulating Carol. They are manipulating Manusos and the other immune to join them. But again, that's a self-serving thing, right? Like they're trying to get them to join the hive, and they will do whatever they have to achieve that.
What if we don't use the label malicious and just say malignant? Because like a cancer is not maliciously attacking your body, but is malignant. And also the POV is entirely dependent, because from the cancer's point of view, the body is the malignant thing that's sending all these T cells to try to kill it and all this and so it's like that malignant is an interesting thing, because it's just describing a harmful effect that's happening on a target. It doesn't assign like a kind of a
moral judgment.
Yeah. Because obviously the morality of these hive people are crazy bar. And I think that Vince picked the apple because the whole purpose of an apple is, and fruit of all kinds, is so that mammals will eat them and
spread
and travel and poop them out. They are interfering with the apple tree's life cycle by not picking their apple. So it's like that morality. If they were talking about like, oh, can't cut down an apple tree, I could get that. But I think Vince did the apple deliberately, just so you'd know this is a lunatic, like purely religious position to take that has nothing to do with any kind of scientific research or anything like that. So
original sin.
Oh my God, there's that too. There's that too.
You might have let the genie out of the bottle there, Courtney.
Sorry. I mean, but come on.
No, it's
an
fine.
apple.
It's fine. I just we went into a really long and detail, and you know about this too, because I was sharing some of the stuff of what A.ron was talking about the religious overtones in episode 7, and he laid it out. A.ron laid it out. It must have been in that episode, right? 7 that we were talking about.
Yeah.
All these connections. And yesterday I was reading an interview with Vince, and he basically said, yeah, he's kind of biblical, but really his name is, that name means hand of God, but his name is that because I met this guy when me and my significant other were in Greece. And one of, we went to this pottery kiln thing, and they bought a bunch of this guy's work and shipped it home. So they just wanted to do it, and he kind of downplayed the whole thing, but I do think that there's quite a bit of I don't know, you know what I mean, like that seems a little bit hard to none of that was intentional,
because like this is man, it's happened however long True Detective premiered, but we were covering that, and we noticed that who is not Rust? It's I don't know, the other guy, Marty. Thank you. Their children are drawing these weird spiral things in their background and in their bedrooms, and they were also doing some other stuff like staging these bizarre things with their Barbies. But we thought that for sure meant something, and then postseason we found out that was a set designer that's kids just drew a bunch of kid pictures and they brought it in and tacked them up on the wall, and they had accidental synergy with some of the other things that they were and people took the wrong. I believe stuff like that happens. I just don't know all the overlapping things that they put for this guy to be like seen as Christ imagery to it mean nothing. And it might not mean anything from like a story. It's like, because like you could also always take a Christ symbol and flip it on its head. You got the Antichrist. And Menusos is so cool in that I could easily see him being a primary antagonist or a protagonist or a deuter antagonist. But yeah, I just I can't believe that there's like 10 different things in that one episode that point to him being like associated with a messianic figure, and for them to just all be accidental. Menusos, yeah, I buy that, but all the other stuff, I don't know.
Yeah, it felt a little convenient to just keep people, because I think one of the sentiments I saw repeated from him was that he's trying not to explain things, and he's really getting a kick out of other people's interpretations. So
the other thing I think Vince has taken a piss on that is because he's like, oh, Menusos, I think it means like a hand of God or something. No, it doesn't. It means God is with us. It's one of the names the Messiah has. And I don't believe that even if Vince picked that because he had some kind of weird pool boy in Greece that's name was Menusos, that all the times, surely this has been brought to his attention before, and he would at least remember that, oh, right, it was odd. I just picked that by accident. He wouldn't have the wrong freaking, I don't know.
Yeah.
I feel like he's, this is a Kit Harington on the Tonight Show situation, said, oh no, Jon Snow's super dead. Nothing more to tell about that. It's like, yeah,
but you know how it is with writers, though. Sometimes like these cultural references and influences come out in their writing, and they're not necessarily conscious of it when it happens. So I mean,
it is interesting.
A lot of Gilligan's writing on the X-Files, Catholicism was really a big part of that show. That was Scully's faith, so they brought in a lot of Catholic stuff, and he worked on a lot of those episodes. So there is the knowledge and the background there. So I see a lot of the biblical references as well. I mean, and it was even written into the finale. I mean, Menusos sees this as like a sort of biblical quest, right? Like he thinks that their souls have been stolen.
Yeah, that's really interesting to me. Yeah, I mean, it does feel intentional that he doesn't have like a Colombian or a Spanish name, right? I think it's weird that he doesn't have that kind of name, because when they cast Carolina for they had different names for Zosha that were kind of placeholder names, and they were going to change the name to whatever the nationality was of the actress they cast. So they changed it to Zosha to be Polish, like Carolina, and yet they didn't do that for Carlos Manuel, who is Colombian. And I think it's weird that they would do it for one actor and not another. So again, I do think there has to be some intentionality there. But yeah, I wonder how much of it is just how unwavering he is, in the same way someone very religious and a devotee of, Christianity, if they're very committed in that way, might be very unwavering in their viewpoints, and how that just might be the friction with Carol maybe going forward, is that she's someone that's a little bit more flexible in her feeling and has a bit more sympathy towards the Hive at this current point in time that he doesn't have. And obviously that's why they couldn't work together at first in this episode. But yeah, I think the idea of the souls is really interesting, because that's just not really the scientific way to look at it. And yeah, I just wonder how that will affect him going forward. I do think there's going to be more friction with him and Carol and their approach.
Yeah, I think that the parallel of his, the rigidity of his way of viewing things is obviously a parallel to the Hive and their hierarchy of imperatives and whatnot. And yeah, I do. I wanted to ask you guys, because, it seemed like everyone liked the finale a little bit better than me. Were you not kind of frustrated with this initial meeting with Manusos and Carol whenever he got there? That was driving me nuts. I wanted them to just come on. Okay, I get it. All of it makes sense, but please talk to each other, he's such a dick. I think I think it's lost on people what a dick he is, because of this noble thing that he did, and the way that it all felt like this epic journey across the thing. He honks the horn. He doesn't even knock on her door. How that's like what a teenager does when he goes to pick up his girlfriend for the first time or something. And you're just dude, what are you doing?
That's more of a safety and not wanting to creep up on somebody unexpected, I think, was the motivation there. But you say he's a dick. Carol is a dick too. They're both.
Oh, well, of course. I'm not.
I thought that they brought equal and opposite passive aggressive dick energy. Neither of them showed that they have a propensity for violence, because Manusos could have hacked in any number of those pluribi that accosted him along his way with that machete, and it looked like he was going to. Maybe they touched him, but he never did. So yeah, it was just them demanding to and the having a paranoia off, because Carol is all weirded out by the Hive being oh, he's not dangerous to you, and this guy has crossed God knows how many miles and had been dependent on these stupid pluribi to meet this woman, and he has to already notice that they're back in Albuquerque as he's driving in there. So there's a lot of reasons for him to be suspicious of Carol, and there's a lot of reasons for Carol to be suspicious of him. I thought these were two street smart people, kind of prowling around, testing each other's, rattling each other's cages a bit.
I guess so. I was a little bit surprised. I won't lie. I was a little surprised how dedicated to the relationship Carol was. I thought that they were playing. I thought that she was keeping both options open at the end of episode 8, and she came off as a fully engaged in the Kool-Aid kind of situation, where her priority seemed to be to protect what she had going there, which I thought that it was set up. Like I said, it was all set up fine and it all made sense, but I just found it frustrating to sit through, because I just wanted to make the outcome be something, you know what I mean? It was sort of you have that armchair quarterback kind of feeling of come on, please, just we waited all season.
Yeah,
I think that's how though. Sorry. If they just got along right off the bat, though, right? And I mean,
of course not.
You know,
I wasn't faulting it for like being like a not making sense or not. I was
Sure.
just saying that the actual feeling of sitting through it was incredibly frustrating.
Well, it
for me.
was, and I think the narratively what that first scene when they first meet does is it's really a mirror for Carol. Gets to really see how awful she was, and it reflects back her own behavior from episode 2. She really gets a sense of how the others were perceiving her, the other unjoined or immune people, and the way that she's defending their humanity. They are people, and we're not going to kill them, you know, like they're you see how protective and defensive she gets, and it's because she has someone she cares about that is now part of the hive, just like everyone else, like Lakshmi and Shume and Auchenbayer all had their people. So it was, I mean, that's why in the beginning when I was saying I thought it was a really nice bookending effect. So you see Carol kind of come full circle, and you see that
Yes.
she's like come around to this other point of view. Of course, like, you know, she wakes up from that eventually, but I think this is someone as a character that has a lot of self-loathing in general, and a lot of what Carol's anger and bitchiness and all of that is really just projection. And so probably what she saw in Manusos was everything she does not like about herself. At least that's the way that I read that scene. It was
I
just
think that's
an
really
intense mirror.
interesting. Yeah, that's really
Yeah.
interesting, and I definitely saw all of the parallels with episode 2 and how Carol is sounding a
Lakshmi.
lot more like Lakshmi. And for
Mhm.
me, I saw that as a moment of growth. I didn't really see that as a bad thing. I do think it's important to understand the other side's perspective, even if you come back to your own mission, because now you can kind of say, hey, I tried that. I get what they're talking about, and I still feel resolute in my mission because there is something there's too much of a fantasy to what the hive is offering. And to just go back with what you're saying with Carol and Zosha P, you know, I get what you're saying. I do think the gap is such an important episode in that regard, and just how broken she was, and just really seeing where she ended there as, you know, borderline suicidal.
Mhm.
And so I think that's why she really jumps headfirst into everything with Zosha, because she's just looking at this existential loneliness, thinking like, I can just embrace this and dive headfirst, or I can be alone and feel like that for the next 30, 40 years of my life that I'm on this planet. So I think it just has, you know, there's not really a one-to-one comparison with real life, because we'll never experience that type
Yeah.
of existential loneliness in that way. And I do feel like that was kind of the point of the time jump in episode 8, right? It cuts from, you know, their first night together, talking about Waikaro, and then we are 10 days ahead. They're so domestic. So I think we're just supposed to accept that as like she is
Yeah.
fully buying into this. Like Zosha's new outfit is very like cottagecore girlfriend. Like they've really
They got
they have a whole new dynamic
they have
going
the
on.
radio show playing, like they have
Yeah.
like they're doing the play acting of the radio show and everything.
I also think
Yeah.
another thing, angle of this we haven't analyzed is Carol's feelings that, and maybe the Hive did this deliberately to sabotage this, but you know, Carol contacted Manusos in a sense of radical transparency and communication with no agenda. He heeded that call, came to her doorstep with no lies, no agenda, no hidden representations. And because of her adventures in the previous 40 or so days, she has now compromised herself. She's sleeping with the enemy. So he shows up. There's a whole bunch of stuff that she doesn't even want him to know. And that's got to be, in addition to the shame she has to feel of like, this guy has walked all the way from Paris or wherever, you know, and he has walked thousands of miles. I owe it to him to meet him. There's also got to be like, oh my God, he's actually, you know, this guy heeded my call that I abandoned because I was lonely. Like, I think there's so many understandable biases and things that Carol's hitting with Manusos that it almost like pushed him, it like almost pushed her into the hands of the arms of the Hive. But I also wonder how much of that was deliberate. That the charm offensive so happened when the Hive were really nervous about, oh my God, if these two people get together and start talking, what's going to happen? So, you know, they tried to.
Yes.
Yeah, they
And that-
try to dissuade Manusos, and they try to co-opt Carol.
and that's why I'm not so sure that I really believed all the hype about her book in the previous episode, as much as I think it may have just been telling her what she wanted to hear, making her feel good.
Yeah,
You know?
Carol did beg them to come back, but obviously, like, them going away in the first place, you know, does push her to that point. However, he didn't really start. Well, actually, he might have started earlier than that.
Let me ask
I
you
do think-
something.
Wait, I'm sorry. Just like one more quick thing.
Yeah.
So in the finale, they do the trips that her and Zosha go on and feel very similar to what Carol imagined the hive mind to be like back in episode 3, Grenade, where she's saying is being in the hive, like being in a Rick Steves special, being in a postcard where you're on the beach and you're up in the Arctic Circle. And her and Zosha end up doing like very similar trips. And so I do think a lot of that is bringing her to a place where she is so happy that she wants more happiness. And that's where Zosha overstepped. None of this would have happened if Zosha was like, if she didn't say, it'll only get better. She says that because she thinks she has actually gotten to Carol to a point where she is so happy that she wants more. So that's why I'm not sure if all those other moments are not genuine, because I do think getting her to write, inciting a romantic relationship literally did make Carol happy. So if that was their goal, it did work. She was happy. And now they really want her to want to join the hive. So that's interesting too. I don't think they want to force it on you if they don't have to. They want you to want it.
Well, they
Yeah,
still
that makes
haven't-
sense. Can I just
sorry.
indulge myself really quickly? I'd like to know if you can just simple yes or no from everyone. Was part of the hive's motivation for going away punishing Carol?
Yes.
It certainly could
Yeah.
be.
Okay, so
Well,
I was just curious to where we because I mean, for me, it just seems like that's not something that I would 100%
Wait, yeah, or is it more
say
self-preservation?
they're capable of.
Because that's the thing. It's like it's therapy speak. And I've seen therapy speak used by a victim to draw a clear boundary between them and their abuser. And I've seen an abuser use therapist speak to essentially draw a snare around their victim and hold them even harder. So it's like it's a tool. This kind of like, you know, very abstract, hey, we need space. It's not about us, it's about you. It's but like it's you know, it's like a gun, I guess. If you use it to, you know, drive a wolf off of a child, then it's good. If you use it to rob somebody, it's bad.
Yeah, actually, maybe I take that back. Maybe I do think it's more self-preservation because
Yeah, like that's the
Yeah.
thing that I would feel comfortable saying for sure is that they
Yeah.
wanted to protect themselves. They wanted to preserve themselves. But I see a lot of people making that connection, saying, you know, well, they wanted to punish her. They wanted to put her in solitary confinement. And I don't know. It's like one of those things, like, because I heard Patrick Fabian say so many times that their feelings hadn't changed and they really just wanted some space, that I kind of take them at their word on that. But sorry, I didn't mean to derail the conversation. I just wanted to see where
Is Kumba acted as a go-between for the entire human race and Carol, because they're saying we just need, so saying you need space and time is saying that the ball's in my court. But we also know from what Kumba said, they were waiting for Carol to make an effort.
Mm-hmm.
And I wonder if she would have painted that like, please come back, if she had not known that. So it's like, that's an interesting thing too, that you wouldn't think that the hive mind would need like a friend, a confidant that can go and exchange letters like in high school, but they kind of did.
Well, that's why I think both things can be true. I think it can be an act of self-preservation, but what you were just saying, A.ron, Kumba says to her, they're looking for a change of heart, right? It's like putting a little kid in timeout and like think about what you've done. And when you're sorry, you know, then you can come back.
But that's not what they said. That'd be cool to do to, but if you sat a 3-year-old in the corner and say, just sit here indefinitely, until mommy says, no, you can get up. That's abuse. If you say, you're going to go in here for a minute and think about what you did, I'm going to come back and talk. There's the difference between like, discipline and abuse. And I feel like Vince knows what those lines are. And most of this season, he has been trying to stay on kind of a loose side. So you couldn't really, you couldn't really draw and make a moral judgment between what the Hive is saying, what the Hive are doing.
Yeah, I think it's that third person perspective versus from their point of view again, where I think we could probably all agree it's pretty manipulative, has the shades of an emotionally abusive relationship, most likely. But yeah, from their point of view, again, maybe they, in the kindest reading from their point of view, it's like they have to leave because until she begs them to come back, they don't know if she's going to come running at them with a syringe again and, making them cry. But like you said, they didn't really dictate that to her in the voicemail. So she was probably waiting a long time, maybe thinking they would come back because that's what We Need Space sounds like. So,
and if you like keep pestering the person that says they need space, then you're kind of being abusive because they're telling you that they need this and to respect this boundary, and you're trampling it. So, yeah, I felt like they did feel like they put her in an emotional, leg lock a little bit.
Yeah, I really like the way that they constructed that because, what you were saying earlier about her being broken and just how it does make sense for her to do what she did here. I mean, it's really human. Her reaction is really human. And it's almost like a lot of times when we're faced with this kind of stuff, we're just hoping that we can have something that we can easily justify to go along with something that we know is questionable, because like the whole idea of like, yeah, it's hard to be alone. It's hard to be isolated. All of this stuff is like just in regular life. But in her case, it is for the rest of her existence. Mm-hmm. Like that is what she's facing. She's not facing like having to kill some time for a week while her significant other's out of town, or she's not thinking about like getting through this period of mourning because she just lost someone. She is facing the idea of being alone for as long as she exists, with no chance of anybody ever coming back. Like it's already, they're already all changed. They're not the same anyways, but like they're saying they completely hold the ball in their court of being able to just say, no, we're going to leave and you can't get us. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And Pete, I think that's probably one of the reasons why the writers decided to make the meeting with Menuso so combustive, because in that moment, Carol's choice is to either team up with him and, try to work on whatever they're going to work on, or she can continue living out this little honeymoon that she has going on. And I think it makes sense for her character why she would go that way when faced with those two options,
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I just thought the part of the text of the previous episode was that yes, she was giving in, but also she was still on Team Mankind because she was our only shot at that before Menuso's got there. So I had an investment in her still holding on to that idea, even if it was all just going to be turned around anyways by the time they hit Montana. Is that where they're at in the skiing scene? Mm-hmm. I just want to thank, there's been a lot of different questions, and I tried to put them up where they fit because I couldn't get to them all in the thing. But this is another one that I wanted to just thank you for the 10. Max JZZHF. The collective's motivation maps exactly to how a virus in a host body transmits. Why do we think the collective has bigger motivations than finding new hosts once the existing one is spent? It's a good question. It really is. It is not one that I think we can answer, but I think those are the kinds of things that this premise, put on the table and make us think about it.
I'm just going to give everybody, because like we have like 60-mile-an-hour winds here in the Midwest right now, and my lights just flickered, and my emergency power system flickered back on. So if I disappear, I'm probably okay. It's just the wind knocked down a line or something. Wow,
Yeah,
it is really blowing out there.
All right, good luck out there.
Yeah.
God.
What happens when you go from 65 to like 20 degrees in the space of 10 hours, I guess. Wild weather.
Yeah, I was talking about how it seems like it's been a month since the last time we streamed. It was like summer. I had the air conditioner on that day, and today it's like winter. So I totally know where you're coming from with that. One extreme to the other in a 7-day period of time. This is one that I saw too. Smallest, thank you, Airy Ozone. Smallest detail bugging me: when did Carol clue in Zosha that they'd be leaving Manny to go on complicated honeymoon? Their departure seemed abrupt. She actually chased after her. If you think about how the episode played out, she freed him from the she put Manny in the trunk after she pulled the shotgun out, and after they left, she brought him out and she talked to him, and that's where he posed the question: would she try to get the girl, or would she save the world? And she chose the girl. So that's where she didn't tell Zosha about it until she caught up with her, I would imagine. Liquid Snake 90 ARS 500. I don't know what that is, but
That's
color
Argentine.
tells me. Yeah, the color tells me that it's a very generous donation. How do you think it would be when a person is separated from the hive mind? It could be interesting that having access to the memories and thoughts of everyone might cause them to collapse, or that wants to return to the union. Yeah, I brought this up earlier, and this is something that I touched on in my season 2 burning questions, because I think that obviously Manousos is working on something. He at least thinks he's able to disrupt their signal or separate. And I mean, we talked about this in previous live streams. They could just make a Faraday cage if they wanted to catch one of the hive members and put them in there. Like that's totally doable, and something I expect to see happen very early, or at least the plan to do that start to develop really early in season 2. And I think that is what the question is like, what will the person that they free feel like? I don't know if we know that they're going to be able to retain memories of their time in there. If they would go back to who they were before, are they going to be the person they were before, but feel like they have this giant hole in their soul or their heart, like where this feeling of connectedness used to be? I mean, there's a lot of questions that brings up.
They've also already brought up the analogy of heroin, because Carol's got personal experience with it, and I don't believe a dealer what he says about a drug, but so like that leaves us open to
what happens when you turn off the tap of all those happy chemicals.
You shove this guy into a Faraday cage, and they just start screaming and crying and wailing. Well, that's what happened. That's what the person on heroin does when you pull them off cold turkey and you strap them to a bed, right?
Yeah.
So as I can see Manousos, like Carol's be like, we cannot continue to do this. And Manousos was like, we got to at least give it a week, what if they would come out of withdrawal? So there's a lot of, I'm the same way, Pete. I think sometime in season 2, they will reverse somebody and we will get answers to these questions.
Yeah, I'm not sure if they're going to retain memories, only because of the excerpt they revealed from Carol's Waikaro book where, Lucatia finds Raban. Raban does not remember Lucatia when he sees her again. And obviously Raban is Zosha. So, I mean, there's been a ton of theories that they will get Zosha out and she won't recognize Carol. And that would be interesting, because if they take someone out of the hive and they can't remember what their time in the hive was like, they'll really never get the answers as to whether it's better or not. So I'm not sure what I'd rather see from the show, to be honest. I guess we'll see.
There's also the angle of they remember everything, but like the real Zosha would never, like let's say she's not gay.
Yeah.
Just like, or even if you don't want to add anything additional to like her feelings about being gay. But if she's like, if you're not, if someone has sex with you, Not even I mean, yeah, like what Carol did is just like what we said with Kumba. That's a form of rape. So Zosha just could be outraged, not just like not in love with her in the hive kind of mind, but like, and I think that's what they're going with that Raban thing is that yes, at some point she'll be separated, but you know, it's not going to go well for Carol.
I mean, there was multitudes in that brief exchange you guys had there. Like for one thing, one of the ways that I've been tracking what they're doing is through the hero's journey, right? Because we know this is supposed to be a hero's story. So season 1 basically amounted to refusing the call. You know, Carol making the decision that she was going to save the world. So yeah, I think that would definitely be like trials, right? Like if they get somebody out of there and all of a sudden that doesn't solve any problems at all, it just makes things more complicated. That would seem to be in line with the four season trajectory, correct? Because like I feel like he already knows how to do it. Like I feel like the books on the table probably have him on the right path as far as being able to separate someone. If he did that and that was the key to everything in the beginning of season 2, then what would the rest of the series be about?
Well, I hope we get more backstory, and I imagine we will, like seeing what the other Unjoined's lives are like, but also seeing what like Zoja's life was like perhaps before the joining even happened, getting more backstory there. And A.ron, while you were just talking, I was thinking about the ski resort scene and how careful they were when
that's what I was
Carol
thinking
was
too.
when Carol was asking about did you have someone before?
Mhm.
And she was really
Are they?
careful. Yeah, there was no gendering there, and she didn't even ask. And thinking more just about like Carol's mindset in this entire episode. So I was talking with some friends about this, and we were like, when she has the confrontation in her neighbor's house, in Wilson's house, with Manusos and Zoja there, and then she drags Zoja back, and she's like, you know, you're mine, and how
So possessive.
Zoja says like, well, you know, I love him the same, and we were saying like, what? Like if Carol was thinking straight, she would be like, no way, this is bullshit, I'm out of here. But she's like so attached, and there's such desperation there, and it's like she's willing. It's like total cognitive dissonance, and she's like willing to go along with the fantasy, and it's like she knows better. She knows better. Intellectually, Carol knows what's going on. She knows what the right thing to do is. But it's like, for one, she's putting heart over mind, where up to this point, it's always been, you know, mind over heart. She's been extremely intellectual about how she approaches this. So,
yeah, you hit everything I was thinking about. So thanks for that. That was exactly the same points I wanted to make. And I was thinking about something I heard you say, Cris, on, I think probably on your podcast, I guess, about it's just like choosing love for the first time in her life, or choosing happiness. It wasn't love, it was happiness, because this is a person that was established to be someone who has a very hard time enjoying anything, including this romantic getaway with the person that she clearly loves. And, you know, they made the plan together. I've seen some people saying like, oh, you know, she was basically ended up in this thing because it was Helen's surprise idea and she wasn't happy. Like, she knew they were going to the ice hotel. She mentioned that she didn't pick up on the fact that they're going to be sleeping on a block of ice. Like, she agreed to it. The thing that told me was that she just has a hard time enjoying anything. You know what I mean? Even if it's idyllic, like it's really hard for her. So I thought that when you pointed that out, Cris, I thought that made a lot of sense. You know, that sometimes you just say, you know what, I don't ever do this, so I'm going to fucking do this, and I'm going to enjoy it. You know what I mean? Like that's superhuman. That's
absolutely
something that
yeah. And the funny thing is, despite how happy she is, she still falls into the same pattern, right? She's like, do you have any exes, Zosha? Like, let's find out, because she does have a hard time letting herself be happy. So, you know, I think fighting for her individuality is fighting for, like you said, Courtney, the right to be unhappy and the right to be miserable. But yeah, I think that's just very notable, right? That I think she's looking at her time with Helen, and we found out a couple things throughout the show that recolored her relationship with Helen a little bit, like getting that confirmation that she didn't really like her books. And at the time we found that out, we didn't even realize how much Carol actually loved them, right? I think episode 8 is enlightening the extent to which she is proud of her work, even if we always knew that. It definitely went to a level that was even more enthusiastic than I was expecting. So that makes the confirmation that Helen wasn't very into them hurt even more. And we find out she didn't really trust her in terms of the drinking. She had the sensor on the cabinet around the time that, and the liquor cabinet around the time that Carol froze her eggs. And I mean, maybe that's the reason they didn't have kids and Carol never knew, right? We don't really know whether they were just too busy or whatever, but maybe Helen did see that Carol was drinking too much and they sort of put it off as a result of that. Obviously, she wasn't trusted and she didn't live up to being the partner that she wanted to be. So I think everything with Zosha feels like a do-over, even if it's a bit of a fantasy. It's like, oh, okay, I can be a partner that she loves, right? Because she can never really let Zosha down. So, because Zosha's always going to love her in her way. So I think it's, a bit of wish fulfillment of what she could have done with Helen if she'd been able to appreciate the moment.
Yeah, and I think that I like the way that reframes the bigger picture too, because that in a way the Hive and Carol are like, they're kind of in this engagement where they're trying to change each other, right? Like they want to be together, they have to be together, but they want to change each other. And so seeing that because I think the point is that Helen and her had a relationship that worked largely, but even in that kind of relationship, there's still those feelings of wanting to change the other person for the better, like for good reasons. But it like to go back to allowing yourself to be happy, like the way that it made her possessive, like that you pointed out, Courtney, like once she had that, then she became really possessive of it, and she was just sort of like, mine. She uses the word that Diabate used. She says chaperone, but then she adds mine at the end of it,
And that's the second time she's done that, because she did it to the Kumba too. This isn't like a post relationship thing. Just the attraction to Zosha was enough for Carol to keep her around, not give her up to Kumba's harem. So that was even before she admitted to herself on drugs that she found her, very affable. So they really set this up going a long ways, and also showing how willing Carol would be to just kind of pour her assumptions about this relationship into it. She's feeling that possessive even before anything started. Zosha starts play acting, and she's certainly going to be head over heels.
Proud hottie Bourbon.
And I think, like we wrote, this is the point where what is her name? Lucasia forced Raban to walk the plank. So she's she won't respect he won't respect her command anymore. So she's making him walk the plank. She's metaphorically getting him out of her life, and that's what's exactly happening to the Raban surrogate in this story.
I just wanted to point out the question that's up here now. Has been up here for a second. That just say it. Thank you for the 5. Anyone else worried the series falls apart if Gilligan goes down a psychology course with the Plurbs? Reversal story seems more viable at the moment. Anybody worried the series falls apart?
Are they trying to say that if, like, I don't know if they're trying to say that if the Hive starts to if the Hive starts to evolve or unlatch a bit, like in the way we were talking about them maybe overriding their biology in some way, almost as the Hive, I don't know if that's what they mean by going down a psychology course, and that instead it would be better if we just took people out one by one and there wasn't really an evolution with the Hive.
Yeah, that's what I think that they're saying, is that because they say reversal story seems more viable. So just yanking people out, forced deprogramming kind of situation.
But what's the I
Yeah,
don't get this the whole going down this because that's like if someone was watching like season 1 of like The Good Place and is like, boy, I hope they don't go down the whole religious spiritual examination. I just want to see these people trying to scam their way out of hell and stay in heaven. It's like, okay, you know, like there's that you're only it's like you're only eating the bread and you're throwing away the meat at the sandwich, my dude.
Yeah.
But maybe I'm misunderstanding it.
I think there's ways to keep the story going. Like, for example, I could see them, Carol and Manuso, starting to figure out how they can reverse this. Like, they start doing radio signal investigations, and then maybe they're running out of time, and like Carol uses the atom bomb to bomb the lab with her stem cells. Like maybe the mission turns into, hey, we don't have enough time to figure this out, so let's just try to figure out how to get rid of these stem cells and buy ourselves more time, right? I think that could be a way to keep the story going. And then if they figure out later how to get one person out, it's like, okay, great. How do we now expand this to more people? I think there's ways to kind of keep these mini missions on the way to fully reversing the world.
Yeah, I've seen this EMP, and the reason I pulled it up right at this moment was because one of the things that I have problems with when it comes to the bomb, not in like that I don't like the bomb, I think the bomb's fine or whatever, but a lot of the theories around the bomb, like as you said, like sort of bombing the place where they're working with the eggs. How do they get the bomb anywhere? You know what I mean? Like, and this is not. And that's rhetorical. I don't want you to answer, but like the thing that it brings up for me is that how do we think the Hive is going to respond to what happened at the end of the season?
That's where I think we're going to see how strong the biological imperative is, because if Carol says, look, here's the deal, you get within 10 miles of my house, I'm going to set this thing off, and me and Manusos are both going up and smoke. Would the Hive send like one of their people with this steaming beaker and just be like, oh God, I hope or would they would that put them into a kind of a stalemate of their logic of, well, we want to reproduce, but also they're denying us this and we'd lose. I don't know, because I think it'd be super interesting if the Hive would be compelled to do that, and I suspect they won't be. Because then the show's over. Carol and Manusos nuke themselves, and then, well, we found that out. So I'm gonna suspect that that's going to open up the whole. How much flex do you have on this whole thing? Like an honest negotiation, like between a conquering species and the conquered, right? Like, what's it going to take for us to come to a truce here? Because we've got we got a stalemate.
I think there must be some other plan for the bomb. I don't think using it to blow themselves up would really dissuade the Hive too much. I mean, we know they want to protect them and everything, but we do know that they were watching her the whole time, and they did not intercede when she was, sitting there with the firework pointed at her. They didn't come and rush to help her put out the fire, and we know they were aware. They were watching her the whole time. So I don't think, what would that accomplish? I mean, it would take her and Manusos out, and the Hive can still go about doing what they want to do, building their antenna, sending out their signal or whatever. So I don't know that would be the objective. I think what they're going to do with
see a difference between a firework, which is, I guess, a windfall accident, versus like them actually taking an action that's going to make her in response blow the bomb up, or
I don't think that would be enough to make them act, is what I'm saying. I think the bomb is going to be a plot point in a different way. What I was thinking about is like maybe threatening to use it to like blow up this antenna that they're building, perhaps. Or like Cris, what you were saying, maybe like wherever they have her eggs or something. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
I think there'll be some other way that they're going to leverage that.
That brings
than it just like a suicide threat.
It's like having a gun that you yourself can only handle. You can't actually pick it, without your enemy doing it for you, right? It's like you can stand on your house and swivel and shoot all you want, but if you want to take that weapon somewhere else, you
need a ride.
Or Manusos loaded up into a Home Depot truck, which maybe that's possible.
One real quick, is everyone under the assumption that they were in Norway for the eggs, and so then they went, like, does everyone believe that her eggs are that far away?
Oh, no, they just talked about it there. I'm sure they did it somewhere in the US, right?
That's what I thought, but I've seen a lot of people saying that, like, saying it like it's a fact that they went to Scandinavia to bank her eggs.
No,
I kind of assumed
that at all.
Maybe for privacy reasons, because she's a big enough, and maybe she
said she spent $100K, so I don't know how that
yeah
compares to prices anywhere or whatever.
Maybe she did it just to kind of like stay away from the paparazzi and all. I don't know.
No, they just talked about it there. There was no indication. They were just like, oh, 100.
Wait a
like
second.
I could have frozen my eggs here if
It says this is not the. I have never heard anyone say that you would get better care in the United States.
In Norway? I don't know.
Antithetical.
Well,
Norway has the best healthcare and college, free college education for every single person born in the country that in the world. Like,
yeah, I don't know if it's healthcare.
The standard of living is so much higher in Norway than it is in the United States. Like, it's ridiculous. Like, socialism is real there.
Yeah, I just don't know, like, if there's certain countries that are farther ahead in in like.
Yeah, that's true. That could be.
Yeah, whatever. Because obviously there's a lot you have to do in terms of reproductive care. So I think it's less about the healthcare itself and just more like where they are with the research and how much you can choose the traits of your baby. And like, I don't know, like, some places are very advanced in that. So I'm not sure. But just to go back really quick, I'm not sure if the Hive is going to really do anything on the offensive because of the fact they have this atom bomb. Like, I think for the Hive, they probably feel like they're just in a race against time and they have the upper hand of just like trying to get this virus ready for Carol as fast as possible. And maybe they did take Manusos' stem cells too. We can talk about that, but I don't think they care that much that they have the bomb. I'm not sure how that will go. I think they just need to work as fast as they can in the lab. I did want to mention though that I read an interview where Vince said that they had a different ending originally that did not involve the atom bomb. It was going to end with Carol almost seeming like a double agent.
Yeah.
Like she was going to slip a note to Manusos or something. And I think we would end maybe not knowing what side she's on. And I don't know how that would work, because would Zosha still be with her in that scenario? Would she just tell Zosha she needs some space, but not be obvious that she's working against them? So yeah, I don't know. Obviously, they took a different approach where Carol having the atom bomb is this big declaration of, I am working against you now. So the Hive is aware of that, and that definitely changes things. But I think it's interesting that they originally were going to do a more subjective kind of ending.
Yeah, that was the big change, was that the way they said it was that she drew the line in the sand. And the other ending that they that they got, that Sony or Apple wanted them to add to, was it was more of there was the opportunity for her to continue to play both sides. I think it all amounts to the same, right? It all amounts to her making the decision being the key point of the season. But it is interesting to think like how that would have affected their falling out whenever they were together. Carol and Zosha, because if she was still thinking she was for her to be a double agent, they have to think that she's still going along with their what they're doing, their play acting.
Yeah. And I'm nervous how much they're going to be able to keep Zosha part of the narrative, because I feel like I have fallen in love with Zosha and Carolina's performance. So I do want to see her still have a big presence on the show, but I'm having trouble thinking of how they keep her really entwined in the narrative, at least in the first half of the second season, just because, she even said they left because they don't want to be around Manussos. So if Carol is around Manussos, I don't think Zosha will be around at all. So yeah, I'm just curious how they will keep her part of the narrative, because I still want her around, because I really like Carolina's performance and her character, but we'll see.
I think there's a sentiment that maybe she'll become the evil antagonist now, like, like it'll be gloves off because of the bomb or something, but like that doesn't make sense for what we know about how like what we've been talking about for the last hour and a half about how the hive operates, right? Like she's still just going to love Carol just as much as she loves Manusos, just as much as they love everybody and everything. She just won't be able to come around maybe for a while.
Yeah. Yeah, and I don't think she's like leaving the show. I'm just curious how they weave her in when it's going to be a different dynamic in this way.
I agree. I agree that I would like to see her remain in the core cast, but I have trouble figuring out how that will work in the first half of the season.
That's why I was saying I think we're going to get some flashbacks.
That's a good idea.
Yeah.
Also, I think there's going to be a lot of just kind of like old school Jesse and Walt button heads in a laboratory kind of energy in this next season, because
you think so?
Yeah, just because like that's would be irresistible.
We gotta cook Manusos.
And the thing is, it's like I don't think Carol's dumb the way Jesse was, but she is ignorant, because I think Manusos has got several legs up on her when it comes to the stuff that they're studying, not just because of the books he's been hitting, but because of his natural inclination towards the radio stuff So I think there'll probably be a lot of kind of prickly Carol trying to say, well, I'm just the way Jesse was insecure about his cook, that he wanted to be seen.
But she can come up with shit like robots all day long. That's her career.
Right.
Yeah, that goes in with this comment that's here. It says, thank you, Bess, for the $4.99. How probable is it that Carol's new book will be the cure for the unjoining? With Manny's help, they can probably come up with the code in the literature. That would be a different, that's a non-scientific thing. Anybody think they're gonna go that direction? Lean into the writing?
I mean,
well, insofar that her writing is already important, like what we've seen on her whiteboard, how she's starting to plot things out and think about characters and understanding characters, right?
And I see this person saying this in like that Monty Python skit where the Allies developed a joke so funny that it killed any German that heard it, like that they could do some kind of code sequence of words that would trigger some mental state in them that reverse it. I don't know.
I like the idea of something more psychological or emotional. For me, I don't know exactly the mechanism, but I do like that idea. I think it just kind of fits with the show. And also sometimes I feel like the show itself is honestly like a little less interested in the mechanics of all the science. So I could see it going that way potentially, but
I do like
I'm open to whatever.
It being some kind of allegory to the joined versus the unjoined, and like a kind of a doomed romance that gets the joined to kind of finally see it from their perspective. I think, because I do think that, because Vince has also said about, talked about being a storyteller and seeing the role of storytellers. And I think, I can't remember what law this is, but someone said that there's, some kind of Hollywood right that like a lot of times writers see they insert themselves as the hero, kind of like the nerdy kid in school or whatever. I think the idea that a writer could save the world might be irresistible to a writer to explore, even if it's just a tongue-in-cheek kind of way.
Yeah, I mean, he has kind of said Carol's his self-insert character in not so many words, but essentially, so I could see something like that.
Yeah, I lost it, but there was a super chat a little bit ago that asked if anyone thought that if the narrative would work better if Carol was a man, and I don't think of any way that would really improve anything. I think with Manny we kind of see how we're kind of like we'll give him, I think we give a male character more than we'll give a female character, in the sense of like, we just say, well, that's just kind of how people are, right? You know what I mean? Like of course he's a bit combative. Of course he's a bit, overindulgent or whatever, because that's just how men are, or something along those lines, like one of those justifications that cultural justifications will make or whatever. I think making her a woman and being in this particular situation, like where she's someone who had to hide herself, and then this situation completely exposed her. And I think that gives them so much more to work with. Like they could have done the same things with a male character, sure, but they didn't. They did these ones. And I don't see how changing her gender would like improve anything.
Yeah,
Agreed.
I think too, like her sexuality, her being a lesbian is a huge part of the story, right? Like someone who was really private, and now there's no privacy at all for her, and
Yeah, it's
that's
not
very
just window
uncomfortable for
dressing,
her.
like something that they put there to put there.
Yeah, the
Has
conversion
real,
therapy is
yeah.
huge because it kind of, I think too, it flipped how people saw the hive mind from, one part of a whole versus like this is something that's fundamentally changing who you are, and it adds that texture of like kind of something of disgust, right? And something that's she's permanently in her trauma is permanently being triggered in this world. So yeah, there's so much there. You couldn't do the whole plot line with Zosha because Zosha is like representative of a secret she had with Helen, and there would be no reason to gender bend that character. She was just a straight woman, right? There's just no way to even do that plot line. And I think that adds a lot there where it's like, it's not just that Zosha is someone she's attracted to, it's that she is special in a way because she represents something she had with Helen, like a fun secret they had. So yeah, I think that's really important too. And I don't think Vince even meant it to be like political or anything in any way, but the story happened that way, and now you can't really see it any other way because it adds so much texture. So
Yeah,
I
I agree,
disagree
Cris.
with that comment. I literally just said 3 reasons how this has an impact on the storyline, but okay.
And I mean, to that point about her sexuality, I think it really highlights the fact that this is someone that has had to fight her whole life to be herself, right? To exist within a culture that has always tried to change her. So, I mean, and that is exactly what's happening to her again now on a much larger scale, right? She has to fight to be able to defend her right to be who she is, whether you like her or don't like her, if you think she's a Karen or if you think she's a bitch or whatever you think, if she's miserable, like she would be so much happier if she just joined. She is fighting for her right to be herself on her own terms, right? And I think her background certainly gives us context for why that is so important to her.
Yeah, I guess we're getting close to the 2-hour mark, and I know it's late where you guys are, so I'll start to try to at least be conscious of what time it is. There's a comment here from Dancing Sean again. Thank you. The A-bomb is almost as insignificant as her eggs. An A-bomb on New York City would do less than Carol already has. It's symbolic, not relevant to resolution. This is kind of where I landed on it, as far as like it can be anything, like it literally can be anything, because we know that this is something that they just added at the last minute because of the note. But this question also, or this statement also, reminds me of something that I wanted to ask you guys about, and it's the idea of what happened whenever, like my reading of him using, like, of glitching the hive out, was that he gave them warning so that they all sort of did what Carol or what Zosha did. So I didn't think that there was a lot of casualties, not like in the sense of like Carol killing 11 million. But did you guys come away with that thinking that he killed lots of the hive whenever he did that multiple times there?
I did at first. Like, I think I was a little harsher on him, and then I talked to like my sister and my mom after they watched the episode, and they were definitely less harsh on him for that reason. Like, because I know he warned them, but based on the amount of people that Carol had killed, I'm like, people had to have died. There's no way that every single person got to a safe place.
Anyone flying is dead.
Yeah, or it just depends. Like, right? It's like, are they in the moment of descent? Obviously, I know, some planes can go into cruise control or whatever, but And again, it's just like, how much do you value a human life, right? Like, are you okay with even just one person dying? And, we saw Carol like run up to that construction guy that was hanging. Like, she wouldn't have been okay with even one Hive member dying, right? Like, she wanted to save that guy, even though at that point in time, she was at her peak anger with them for killing her wife. And that's how she saw it at that time, as like, these people are responsible for that. I mean, that's why she yelled at Zosha in the second episode in the first place. Sorry, I lost my train of thought a little bit. Right. And then also, too, we see how this seizure physically affects them. Like, Zosha's really not okay after. And, like, I don't know if you've been around people that have had, like, seizures in real life, because it is extremely scary. So, I think sometimes we see a lot of violence on television and you kind of just, like, brush it off as normal. But I think for, like, an actual person like Carol in that situation, you would never, like, willingly cause that to someone, because it's a little inhumane and something you don't want to see. So I do think, for him, the ends justify the means a bit. And again, if he learns a lot, I think a lot of people can, write it off. But I think I felt a little bit with Carol in that moment, because it did feel like a bridge too far. But again, I don't know, maybe I'm also too Zosha pilled, where I was like, I don't want to see Zosha seizing in front of me. You feel bad for them. So yeah, that's my view. I think. But there's a lot of different opinions, and I think a lot of valid points. So
yeah, I just thought, like, in the moment, I just thought they set it up because he asked them everything, like the whole statement of what did you guys talk about, and he says Toto, like everything. So I was thinking that it was a little less. It was a little, well, like, he thought it out, at least, you know what I mean? Like, he wasn't like. Mm-hmm. Oh, I found out that I can put them into a coma and that's just fun. Let me do that. Like, there was a little bit of like, why am I doing this? I'm doing this because I want to see what will happen. I'm going to give them a heads up first. You're right, though. I don't think there's any possible way that everyone could have been laying on the carpet like Zosha. But so do either of you guys have something that you want to add to that, Courtney or A.ron?
Well, I would just say I'm still curious about what they get up to, like, in their free time. Like, what are they doing? Or do they do? I see people in the comments here talking about, like, if they're swimming, they're dead. Like, is that something they still do recreationally? Do they go swimming for exercise or for fun? Why would they
not to go fishing? We know that part, at least.
Exactly.
I guess they could be. I guess the windfall of dead fish floating around or something.
Zosha swims for Carol in the pool.
I mean, it's one thing if they're doing it for, the amusement of one of the unjoined, but what are they doing in their day-to-day lives?
See, I think that's going to be a horrifying reveal, because it's already it's super weird how they sleep communally. Like, I think most people would find that, like, uncomfortable to do, to just like hug random strangers in like some kind of infinite puppy pile. But yeah, like that's that again. That was a thing that they sanitized or were comfortable showing to Carol. So like, and I think that that Albuquerque is essentially a city put on for Carol's benefit at this stage. The same way that I thought it was interesting that they had all these villages kind of doing village things as Menuso was driving by it. It almost like seems like they really want the unjoined to think that the life will be like they're living now, only connected with everybody and beautiful, and then to do the rug pull like they did on the Peruvian girl. But
yeah, I mean, there's still things they need to do for a functioning society, right? Like, someone's driving the train to get the food where they need to. They're manufacturing all the human-derived protein milk. Yeah. So there's things to do to keep society running.
Like a person's average life, like at some point they'll have a guy driving a train, and it's just that's what he does. Or there's a person that's running the butcher facilities, and there's But I imagine that they are trying to keep like somewhat like 90% of the conscious people on Earth producing materials to make the satellite the size of Africa and make the power systems to generate that. And like, it's a very monotonous meat grinder type of experience. The fact that some guy in Poland got impaled in the, I imagine, like, I bet there's maybe some lax safety standards. Did you guys notice that, like, in every other instance when a joined and unjoined have been together around working on a tarmac with a plane, they've wore ear protection or at least covered their ears. But like when they were doing the handoff in Peru, that guy never didn't have ear protection on. And I wondered if it's like they don't care, they don't value your hearing, because if you go deaf, you can still communicate. I think there's going to be a lot of like very unsettling revelations about what they actually value about their human existence that's going to seem very horrifying to us. And we've only seen a put-on version, like, you know, the way you take a foreign dignitary, if you take them to your best city, you know, and show them a standard of living that's not, you know, standard for your citizens, just to kind of puff you up. I think that it's gonna be like the Matrix type of stuff, man. Like flesh vats, and you know, like thousands of people looking into microscopes, and you know, thousands of people winding copper wire, and it's not gonna feel like you would enjoy being a part of that machine.
Good thing they got all them brain juices going that are going to make them feel good while they do it. I mean, it's not the Matrix, but there are a lot of parallels, right?
Yeah. You're having the wool pulled over your eyes for someone else's benefit.
Yeah. All right. So for an abrupt transition, what I wanted to do was what we did last week. I thought we'd just go around the horn here, and since we're coming up on 2 hours, everyone can just bring up one thing that we didn't get to that you wanted to talk about coming in here. And then we'll go from there and see what happens. But we'll just do that clockwise. Courtney, if you have something that we didn't touch on yet that you wanted to discuss, and then we'll go around and see what everyone has to say.
I think we covered everything that I was going to talk about. So,
all righty. A.ron.
Yeah. Let's debate the what we think the Hive would do with Minusos unconscious on the operating table, access to his pelvic bones, sticking him with all kinds of needles and doing all kinds of cuts against his will to save his life. We kind of treat it as a joke, I think, earlier, but do we think that they might have his stem cells?
I mean, I do not, but it's certainly possible.
Seen as a windfall. They didn't.
I mean, if Carol's eggs are up for grabs, then
that's what I'm saying. Yeah,
I think it's possible.
And it's also really interesting if they're in this weird stalemate where the people who are kind of like pro-Hive, like Kumba and some of these others, are immune because they don't have any access to their stem cells. But like Carol and Minusos, the people who are really up their ass, you know, with a foot up it, are the ones that they do have the key to Hiveization. I think that would be really interesting.
I mean, that could be a twist in season 2, right? That they're so focused maybe on protecting Carol because her time is running out, and then, you know, the surprise is that they're able to turn Minusos because we didn't realize that they did have a stem cell. So I could see like a kind of flip on its head that way. Yeah, it's hard to say because I guess if he was unconscious, could you say that you're not causing them pain by going in?
I mean, that's sort of the way that they operate. You know, you're not wrong to call that out, A.ron.
Yeah.
Like, if he's already, they had to put him under for some other reason, and they could, that would totally pass the test of like what we've been told and what goes.
I mean, look, Minusos did not consent to treatment. And like it's not even like this is a stranger.
And when he said so, they let him go.
Right. And
but they didn't let him die.
Yeah, I think once he passed out and was going to die if they didn't take direct action, that they consider that a windfall, or at least it's certainly arguable. No, I don't think anyone's going to throw the remote at the television if it turns out that's the case.
Yeah,
I like that comment that you included in the notes about would they have mentioned that on his itemized hospital receipt?
Because I actually kind of I wanted time to go back and actually see, because like don't they show like the
They do show it. I don't think it was there. It was. I didn't look, but I mean, not the hive on the online hive would have figured that out.
I would
for
think
sure.
so too. But and also if it's it's like that, but that thing was probably pages long. We wouldn't see it all. And also, okay, I saw that this comment, it would have been on the invoice. Would it have? Because like
They can't lie. If they, yes, it would be. I agree with Vance and Sean 100%.
For all of his treatment, the stem cell removal was not part of his treatment. That was just that was.
I guess you could make it, but they should keep it a little bit consistent. Like they shouldn't get too tricky with it, because that's not the kind of thing that we're expecting from them. I'm not expecting from them.
Agreed.
Cris, did you have something that you would like to talk about before we go that we have not hit on?
I think we mostly hit on everything, you know, like again, Carol sounding like Lakshmi was something I want to talk about. You know, I guess we talk a little bit about like how, you know, how Carol and Manusos might work together going forward and how much friction they'll have. I guess we could see a lot because like I don't know. I don't know if they're I don't know how divergent their methods are going to be going forward. But yeah, I do think we'll have like a funny dynamic going forward between them. Because I think they'll be like the new Carol and Zosha will be Carol and Manusos, and kind of maybe have a similar kind of comedic duo going forward. But yeah, I wonder if there'll be kind of a point where he goes too far and she's not okay with that, and how that might affect them going forward. Especially because like, what is his line, right? I thought it was really interesting where he's like, they're better off dead if we can't fix it. So
yeah,
how long is he willing? That's my question. Like, how long is he willing to try this out before he says, like, let's get rid of these people, or let's like atom bomb, let's get rid of them. I don't know. It was just a weird thing to include if that isn't gonna come into play a bit.
Especially since like if they can't be changed, does that mean can't be changed in his human lifetime? Because like what if him and Carol working on a cure and he got, you know, I don't know, injured or wounded, found out he had cancer, had a limited time. I could see him offing the world when he was going to die because he's the only one that's sure that would do it, and he firmly believes people would be better off dead than joined. And that I could, that would be, I think, a bright white line that him and Carol would butt heads over.
Yeah,
Courtney, you've been my research. I got all my research from about harvesting or producing stem cells from you. What do you think about Richard's statement here? Would that also be true?
I don't know. I didn't look up specifically about sperm cells. I have no idea.
It seems plausible. I do think that Diabate is the one, Mr. Diabate Kumba, he is the one unjoined. I mean, because we need more characters, right? I mean, we do actually need more non-hive characters to interact, and
yeah,
he's been fantastic when he has shown up. So I think that he's got to come into the fold at some point, right?
Yeah, I think so. And even just the way he's like billed on the call sheet, right? He's like, I think number 4 to the other 2. And again, with Zosha maybe being less in it at the start, potentially, depending on how it's structured, then I think they'll kind of maybe join like a trio there. Because they kind of set him up that way. They set him up to be a little more sympathetic to Carol.
I think Lakshmi has potential too. But like, I feel like if you haven't had like more than one speaking, like if you didn't do anything other than introduce yourself at the big
like Shumei might not be coming back. You know, some of the other ones.
I also think there's room to develop some of the non-English speaking people that she deemed not the best. I think the people we've met so far, only like Kumba and Lakshmi have any legs as ongoing characters.
That's what it feels like to me too. And I think Lakshmi is totally being set up as someone they can use. Like they might not know what they're going to do with her as far as the big picture is concerned, but they put her in there in a way that she is we'll feel familiar with her if they do bring her out. You know what I mean?
Plus India and China is such a huge part of the world's population that like there's just a huge concentration of people in that relatively small geographic area. I wonder if that's meaningful too. Like if you wanted to do something to disrupt the hive and you had like one EMP or one, I don't know, 200 decibel scream that you could deploy it on, you'd want to deploy it. They hit the most amount of people. So it could be, that's the other thing. It's like if you got like 2.8 billion people living in India and China, why would you move them to other places? And why wouldn't you just leave them there and move all the research stuff to them if you even need to do it? So that might, I think there's an interesting kind of avenue there as well with Lakshmi.
I think Lakshmi is
Yeah,
eventually
definitely.
going to team up with Carol and Manusos. I think she'll flip.
Yeah,
Her son's going to be the fulcrum too.
Yeah, it's going to matter whenever she does because of the fact that she's going to have to give up her relationship with her son.
Like also like think about how they're going to prioritize people starving to death. Like from a human society, we would probably try to keep the children going as long as we possibly could. But I don't think the hive would think that. And I could see like Lakshmi fight, like that's the thing that cracks her egg, is that my boy is going to be one of the first to starve because he can't, there's a limited amount of physical and mental work that he can do. Like, yeah, I think that they'll have everybody like Kumba and Lakshmi will have, I guess, what I'm going to call a Carol moment where they just find, oh God, this is what I'm dealing with, and flip them.
Yeah, because it feels notable that they had Carol sound like Lakshmi a bit in this episode, right? I think she understands her perspective now. So next time, if they just do give her a second chance, I think she'll know how to talk to them and how to maybe get them on her side, and just find that common ground now that the stage has been set.
All right, gang. We're over the 2-hour mark. You guys are in a time zone where that means that it's what, 11, something like that.
Yep, 11:11.
Yeah. So I don't want to hold any of you hostage.
I did want to Mario Galaxy Marathon, Pete. Let's be real here, okay? We are in the endless stretch of Christmas and New Year's, and yeah, it's time to get back to video game the cheese ball.
I did want to ask one thing that I saw some people that surprised me. A surprising question that I saw was, do people think that it's an actual atom bomb that's sitting at the end of her driveway?
It's either that or like an EMP equivalent. I don't think she would lie to or exaggerate or whatever to Manusos.
Yeah, I thought I didn't really question it.
The hive wouldn't give her a real bomb. Because if that's the question, I don't know. I guess I'm 90% sure they would, but
I think the question that people are asking is like, is atom bomb like a euphemism for something else? Like, could it be her frozen eggs or something like that?
How would she get her frozen eggs? Like, I'm trying to think. It's like if they're in the United States, even if they're in Norway, they already have the eggs in their facilities. They probably more than one, right? Eggs.
Yeah. I don't think it's her eggs.
Yeah. I
think just, again, sometimes I just take myself out of the story a bit, and I'm just how everyone in the show is talking about it, like in interviews and such. I think, we gotta take them at their word.
I'm actually trying to like go through. It's like, is it actually possible? But
they can't lie though, and I think I think Carol was like drawing the line in the sand at the end. So
if it's a metaphoric A-bomb and it actually sits with the audience, oh wow, that is metaphorically as devastating as then Vince can get away with it. Otherwise, no. Like it's got to be something really powerful at the very least. Or why would you do that to your audience? Why would you, and he had a worse, like I guess like Walt buying the giant machine gun at the end.
Yeah, the 50 cal.
He had no idea how to use that, and he was really sweating in the last season. Like, oh my god, I built this thing up. How am I going to? He finally figured out the garage door mechanism, but like, so it's like that it would be a disaster if it's anything but a nuke or a very powerful anti-pluribus weapon for just like drop that. Yeah, I think.
Yeah.
I think it's actually a bomb.
Yeah, I do too.
Yeah,
That's
same.
Because it's not even interesting for the pluribus to not give her a real bomb, because then it's like, what are you going to do? You're going to have her James Bond moment where she's at the switch and then nothing happens, and then they just convert her. I'd stop watching the show. I'd announce that this Bald Move is no longer covering this, or Jim's going to find some other rube. Yeah, I can't do this.
Yeah. Yeah, they set it up with the DHL guy, right? It's just sort of a funny exclamation point to that conversation that everyone loved.
Because I've seen a lot of people say that there's infinite charity from the Hive of what they'll give people. I do think
that's wrong.
The way that conversation went with the DHL guy, where it's like, oh, absolutely. Well, maybe. Oh, are you sure? I actually think she was getting close to the limit of what they would give her before it started interfering with their other priorities. But
yeah,
but I do think they'd give her a nuke. I do think.
Yeah.
That's one argument for it not being is that I saw was because he says he apologizes for, oh, we're sorry we got that wrong. Whenever she says, why would you give me a real grenade or whatever? You know what I mean?
Right.
But I'm not buying it. I think that the show set the rules and that it follows them pretty much. It's pretty honest.
Mm-hmm.
The idea that they're going to suddenly turn around and lie, that ain't going to happen. They will find loopholes. They will test the hierarchy of the way that works. That's good sci-fi. You know what I mean? That's classic moves there. But this is not going to be like, oh, there's going to be a twist where they were pulling the wool over our eyes the whole time. And how did we miss it? Oh, it's so shocking. That's just really not something I expect to happen. All right, guys, I'm kind of bummed it's the last episode. It's been great to be able to talk to you all, though. I appreciate you all coming on. I thought about doing one more season wrap up. Maybe that will make sense. I'm not sure. I was kind of see how this one this one was pretty well attended. It's pretty much the same as the last two. So I do think there would be a drop off in people's interest, but maybe there's some other thing. It just kind of depends if I have more stuff that comes to mind that I would like to hash out and people have free time to come. So I won't because another thing was Gil couldn't make it last week and he was hoping to come on one more time. And I'd like to make that happen too. So we'll see, but I'm going to wrap it up unless there's anything that anybody wants to throw out there before we go.
Nope. Happy New Year, everybody.
Yeah. You guys can give a quick plug, each one of you, if you would, as we go out. I'll post your links here again so that they can follow you.
Yeah, who's
Courtney?
You can go first, Courtney.
Courtney's reviews.
Yeah.
Thanks again, Pete, for having me on. It's been a lot of fun chatting about this. It sucks we have to wait like 2 years. But
yeah.
If you're gonna have more, I would love to come back and chat some more about the show.
They say absence makes the heart grow fonder. I haven't seen you or talked to you for a while, and I definitely feel fond having you here. So I think there's some truth in that. A.ron, who are you?
I gotta say, I'm really disappointed in that, especially since they had the green light for 2 seasons to begin with. That is, I hope he's under promising and going to over deliver, because I don't see how the hell you don't turn this thing around in under 2 years, especially when you knew you're going to do it from the jump. So anyway, other than that, I'm baldmove.com, and that cranky rant is representative of some of the stuff we do. We're covering Pluribus right now, Fallout into the new season, A Night of the Seven Kingdoms. We'll be doing
It's easy to stay in character when you're just always being yourself.
Just be a misanthrope 100% of the time. No, actually, we're warm and friendly. We got a great community, a great loving community. And also, just to put it out there, I know this means a lot to touch a lot of people's lives. Every February, we do a Groundhog Day 24-hour movie marathon fundraiser to support the Cure Owls Foundation. Cure Owls Fund to end Alzheimer's. That thing has ran in my family. It's something I'm personally afraid of. If you want to look up that, I think it's going to be the 31st and 31st of January and 1st of February, a Saturday, Sunday. Me and Jim are going to be watching Batman movies for 24 hours straight and raising money. We raised over $50,000 last year. So
yeah, I was going to say last year it was over 50K. I
Wow.
remember I was watching.
I feel like everyone knows somebody's been affected by that, and we, I think we keep creeping closer and closer to a cure. And it's a great organization, and it's a really fun event. So even if you don't check out baldmove.com, look for our Groundhog Day stuff the week before Groundhog Day, and it'll be fun.
Yeah, I totally, I think that it's I too have had that in my family and worry about it, and I think it's a great cause and people should support it. And I've been on the 24-hour stream before, so
come on again too. Just like we can talk Fallout or something,
Yeah. Okay. Just hit me up.
24 hours. I know we got at least one of them free in Vietnam.
Yeah. No, I mean, I'm always down to help out, and I would absolutely do anything as far as that particular cause is, not just out of friendship for you, my friend, but I think that is 100% worthwhile to do. So just let me know what I can do. All right.
Thanks.
Yeah. Cris.
Right. Yeah. I mean, quick thing on production that we were talking about. I do think they are going to start filming in late spring, early summer. So it is possible we get a 2027 release, and that's still like a lot sooner than Severance. Like I think Severance and Pluribus are going to go into production around the same time, and Pluribus obviously wrapped up much later than Severance did. So, in the grand scheme of things, I don't think it's really too bad in terms of streaming TV compared to other things. But anyways, I have been covering Pluribus on the Popcorn for Dinner podcast. So if you do want to go back and listen to our episodes, I guested there all season. I'm not currently on any shows for 2026 with Popcorn for Dinner right now, but they are covering Fallout, great group of people, and Pete is covering that with them on Popcorn for Dinner. They'll be covering like Industry season 4, I'm pretty sure as well. I will put my TikTok in the chat because I do like episode recaps, and I'm still kind of Pluribus posting a little bit before everybody moves off the topic, getting my last thoughts and analysis out. So I'll be covering some 2026 shows. Like we'll probably be watching like The Pit and Industry. So you can follow me there too.
Yeah, you might have to put that in the private chat, and then I'll post it. I'm not sure if you can post the link in the.
I put it in the chat, but I'll put it in with you too, since you pop up as like a verified here.
Yeah, because I think in general it's blocked from people being able to post links for the most part. And I was going to ask you about because I know that TikTok's a big thing for you that I'm not involved with, but I was going to ask you because I would put it here if people wanted to follow you there. And Cris, this was our first introduction was when we did episode 1 on Popcorns for Dinner together, and then you came on here a few times. So I hope that we will do some more stuff together in the future too. I've really enjoyed talking to you. You have a different point of view that I find very like it just hit on some different things that like for the same reason I like all the other people that I invite to come on here, that I wouldn't necessarily think of, because my job as a recapper, someone who does this, is to think about this solo for quite a period of time. And then so getting other perspectives is, and like I think I've said it more than once. The reason that I do TV, the reason why I do this is because of the accessibility and the way that we all kind of do it together, right? You know what I mean? So it's great to meet different people that have different perspectives but can articulate well, and I always get a kick out of it. And I'm glad that we came together. I'm glad that everyone came out today. Looking forward to, it seems like there's some interest in doing a season 1 wrap up. So I'll definitely look into it. I can't guarantee anything, but we'll see what happens. For now, we're going to call it a night. I'm going to let my guests go get some sleep and play video games and do whatever. I want to thank everyone for coming out. I want to remind you that I'll be doing plenty of TV shows, anything that's in this vein. Hopefully I'll be doing so. Please, I don't usually ask people to subscribe to my channel, but you should do that too if you haven't already. That would be a nice gesture over the holidays. But anyways, we're going to wrap it up. We'll let you know if we're going to do another one, and definitely we'll be back for Pluribus season 2. So if nothing else, we'll see you again when that happens. Thanks for watching. I'll talk to you